Yeah, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be treating cell division, specifically mitosis and meiosis. So let's hop up into the lesson. So first off, we'll be defining what cell division is. So cell division is a fundamental process through which cells replicate and organisms grow, repair, and reproduce. So this process actually involves how cell replicates, how cell makes themselves, like they grow, how they multiply themselves. Yeah, that's the word. And it also talks about how it also is responsible for how organisms grow, repair worn out tissue, and also reproduce. So the two main types of cell divisions are mitosis and meiosis. So both of these methods, or both of these cell division methods, serve distinct purpose in the body. So let's move on to our next slide. What is mitosis? Mitosis is actually a process through which a single cell divides to form two genetically identical daughter cells. So this definition is very important because to help you distinguish between mitosis and meiosis. So it's a process where a single cell, we have a single cell now, divides into two genetically identical cells. So a single cell divides into two identical daughter cells, each containing the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. So this particular definition, actually, there are key points to pay attention to. So first, it starts with a single cell, and that single cell divides into two identical daughter cells having exactly the same number of chromosomes as the initial starting point. So just like as though you have a parent cell probably having, maybe, let me use an example, maybe 24 chromosomes in it, then it then breaks off into two because it divides. It divides into two. So now these two that it divides into, each of these two then have the same 24 chromosomes inside each of them. So how does this happen? So we'll see how this happens later on in this lesson. So it is essential for growth, development, and tissue repair in multicellular organisms. So this is something that you take note of. So next, let's see. The stages of mitosis include prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So these phases are the stages that are involved in the conversion of a single cell into two daughter cells, two identical daughter cells. So the stages are, again, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So after these four phases rather, we have a new phase that's called cytokinase. So cytokinase. So let's see, during these phases, the cell chromosomes are duplicated, aligned, separated, and enclosed into two new nuclei before the cell finally splits. So how does this happen? What happens in the first case is this: we have an initial single cell. So what then happens after the initial single cell is trying to divide? It first starts to duplicate each of the cells. So that cell we talked about, saying it has 24 chromosomes. What would happen is, before it divides, it will first duplicate each of its 24 chromosomes. So once it duplicates it, now it will then have a total of 48 before it breaks off. So then once it has duplicated all these chromosomes, what it does next is it aligns each of the chromosomes the same way it is aligned in the parent cell. So if the parent cell, maybe the chromosome 1 was at the top, chromosome 2 at the next, the daughter cell, it would arrange all these duplicates in the same order. So once it has arranged them, the next thing is it would separate them. It will bring all the 1 together, 2 together, 3 together. And once they brought them together, it then separates them, making them stay apart. So one will stand at one end, the other one will stand at the other end. So it will split them, it will separate them first. So after it separates them, the next thing is it will then enclose them into two new nuclei. So it creates a kind of covering that kind of give each of them two separate nuclei. Then after this is done, the next thing is then breaks off completely into two. So this is actually the process of mitosis. First stage, it involves the duplication of cells, the next the alignment of these cells, the next the separation, the next the enclosing into two nuclei. So then after that is done, then the breaking off actually then happens. So now let's see what meiosis is. So meiosis is actually the difference or the opposite, or somehow I don't know what I'll call it opposite, but it's the other version of cell division. And in this form of cell division is a type of cell division that occurs in sexually reproducing organisms. So it happens only in sexually reproducing organisms to produce gametes. That's stuff like the sperm and the egg from humans and animals. So with the half number of chromosomes of the parent cells. So what happens in this one is, unlike the mitosis, we have times 2 before it splits up. It creates chromosomes times 2. So now, but in this case now, what happens is that 24 chromosomes, it will just split it into 2. making 12 chromosomes on one end, 12 chromosomes on the other end. So that's actually how this one behaves. That's how meiosis occurs. So unlike mitosis creates there's a duplication phase, but for meiosis there is nothing like that, and it actually happens majorly in reproducing organisms. So it ensures genetic diversity through recombination and independent assortment. So later on, maybe in some studies, we'll see what this recombination and independent assortment mean. So let's move on. Meiosis occurs in 2 sequential stages, unlike mitosis, which has like 4 or 5 stages. So meiosis undergoes just 2 sequential stages, and the stages are meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Each of these stages consists of prophase, anaphase, telophase, and metaphase. So like the same thing with the mitosis phase, just that this one for meiosis now, we would have those. The first thing that happens is there will be two stages. Then these 2 stages then have the same similar stages that happen in mitosis. So unlike mitosis, meiosis results in 4 non-identical daughter cells. So for mitosis you see 2 identical daughter cells, but for meiosis you see 4 non-identical daughter cells, each with a haploid chromosome number. So that's the half number of the chromosomes that was in initial parent cells. Let's move on. The significance of mitosis lies in its role in asexual reproduction. So mitosis is actually responsible for asexual reproduction and in somatic cells generation. So while meiosis is actually crucial for maintaining chromosome number across generations and introducing genetic variation into population, so mitosis is responsible for asexual reproduction, and it helps to maintain, it helps to allow for cell regeneration, while meiosis is responsible for maintaining diversity and also responsible for retaining a constant number of chromosomes throughout generations. So in conclusion, mitosis and meiosis are essential biological processes. While mitosis supports organism growth and maintenance, meiosis ensures genetic diversity and reproductive success in eukaryotic cells. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is this: mitosis, things that you should take away from this lesson is that mitosis, it's actually a process that has majorly 4 phases, and these 4 phases, they go on, and at the end you will see a final process of cytokinase. So, and during these processes you will see that a parent cell will be split into 2 identical daughter cells having exactly the same number of chromosomes with the parent cells. So unlike meiosis now would see a production of 4 daughter cells, and these 4 daughter cells, they don't resemble themselves, they are unidentical. So these 2 types of cell divisions, they are very paramount to understand, and they are very necessary that you understand them, and it's going to be crucial in your study of genetics and other functions of plant cells and animal cells. So with all that being said, I will say we've come to the end of this lesson, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.